Hey everybody, I'm Tamara Johnson. Welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be getting our hands dirty in a goo workshop. I'm going to show you the ingredients, the steps, and all the process to make 3 different types of goo. The first one we're going to make is called oobleck. The second one we're going to make is slime. And the third, we're going to use a special type of goo called silicone rubber to make a very simple mold. Each of these goos gets progressively a little bit more challenging, so pick a goo that's right for you or try all 3. Grab your aprons, let's get started. Our first goo is called oobleck. Oobleck is really strange because it can be solid and liquid at the same time. Here are all the things you're going to need to make oobleck. Okay, first we need a big bowl, a bowl that you can kind of put both of your hands in to mix, all right? I've got a little spoon, I've got a big spoon for mixing, I've got a measuring cup that at least goes up to 1 cup, but mine goes up to 2. Cornstarch is going to be our main ingredient. I just got this at the grocery store. And food coloring. I have black, purple, green, and orange. All right, here's how we're going to mix our ingredients to make our oobleck. We're going to do 2 cups of cornstarch to 1 cup of water. First, gloves. You don't have to use gloves, but I like to keep my hands clean. Okay, I'm going to use my little spoon to measure 2 cups of cornstarch. I also have some brown paper down on my table because maybe this is going to be messy. Okay, 2 cups into my big bowl. All right, next, 1 cup of water. Now, before I pour my water into my cornstarch, I'm going to put my food coloring inside and mix it all together. So I've got black, I've got orange, I've got green and purple. What color should we use? Let's do purple. The more food coloring I use, the more colorful my oobleck will be. So I'm going to add in quite a bit. Yes. All right. I can use my spoon that I got my cornstarch with and mix my food coloring right into my water. Stir it up really well before you mix it into your cornstarch. Okay. I'm going to add my water just a little bit at a time, mixing with my hands each time I add a little bit of water. And the goal is to incorporate all the water and all of the cornstarch together. You can use your big mixing spoon that I have right here, but it's kind of more fun to use your hands. So you can see now it's very chunky. Keep adding your water. Whoa. Starting to get more gooey each addition of water. Make sure you scrape all the sides of your bowl, get all the cornstarch incorporated into the water. No lumps. Okay, I think our texture and consistency is just right. Now, the way you can tell that you're just right is I'm going to take my gloves off. Whoa. When I touch the oobleck, it feels like really hard. Hello? But when I lift it up, it's very gooey. I can almost form it into a ball and a liquid at the same time. The more you squeeze it and move it, the harder it gets. And the minute you relax, oobleck turns to goo. If you want to store your oobleck, put it in a plastic baggie or a plastic Tupperware. Never put it down the sink. When you're ready to throw it away, pop it right in the trash can. All right, guys, that's our first goo, oobleck. Pretty fun, pretty easy to make. 2 ingredients, cornstarch and water. Next up, slime. All right, next goo, slime. We're gonna need 3 ingredients to make our slime today. Here's what we need. All right, we're gonna use our mixing bowl from before, and our 3 ingredients are Elmer's glue, I'm using clear, baking soda, and contact solution. Specifically, this brand works the best. I also have some measuring spoons and a mixing spoon to mix it all together. If you want to add in extra food coloring, glitter, googly eyes, we can add that in later on. Let's get to mixing. First ingredient, our glue. Now I have a 9-ounce bottle of glue. We want about 6 ounces, so I'm gonna pour it out, maybe leave about that much in the bottle. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. This is a really good goo all by itself. All right, glue in. Next, I'm gonna measure half a teaspoon of baking soda. Not tablespoon, teaspoon, TSP. Got my baking soda. 1/2 teaspoon. Sprinkle it in. Now, before we add our contact solution, I'm going to use my spoon and give a good stir. Making sure all the baking soda is mixed into the glue really well. All right. Next, our contact solution. Now, you need about a tablespoon of contact solution, but it kind of depends. So I'm going to measure out 1 tablespoon, and I'm going to add it in a little bit at a time. And give a stir. Now, as you stir, you're going to notice that your slime is getting a little bit thicker. Add a little more. You might need an extra set of hands. Looking good. You might not need to use your whole tablespoon. Just add in a little bit at a time until your slime is the right consistency. That looks pretty good to me. So now, time to get our hands in our slime. Now, with the slime, you have to knead it a lot. And this is just going to be going back and forth between your hands, and it's sticky. But keep kneading, and you'll notice that your slime starts to get a little thicker as you knead. If it's still really runny, you can add in a little bit more contact solution. But keep kneading. You might have to do this for about a minute or two until you have just the right consistency. And it'll slowly start to come off your hands, sorta. Okay. At this phase, I want to add in some fun materials. Perfect. Just the right consistency. So I'm going to get back into my food coloring. Let's do green. I'm going to add in some food coloring. The more food coloring you add, the more colorful it will be. I'm going to stretch the slime around the food coloring, mixing it all in together. Yes. Maybe I also want some glitter. I have this really pretty blue glitter. Let's add that in. Woo! Now I have a blue glitter green slime. And one last ingredient, maybe to make it Halloween themed. I'm gonna add in, whoa, some Google eyes. Let's just add them all in. Yes. All right. There is our green glitter Google eye slime. Beware of the blob, it creeps. All right, next up, and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around the wall. Silicone rubber. Are you ready? Okay, everybody, our last and final goo. We're going to be using silicone rubber to make a mold of this tiny pumpkin. This is the most challenging of the goos, but I bet you guys are going to be able to handle it. Let me show you what you're going to need. Okay, our first ingredient and our main ingredient is silicone rubber. I got this at my local hardware store. One thing you want to make sure is it says it's 100% silicone. We're also going to need our handy dandy silicone caulk gun, our mixing bowl, Dawn soap, and for this one, I'm definitely going to use my nitrile gloves. I also have this scrap piece of plastic that we're going to put our pumpkin on once the silicone is on top of it. Okay, let's get started on our silicone mold. We are going to use the silicone and put it all over the pumpkin. The silicone will cure or dry, and then we'll be able to pour different materials inside our silicone mold. So what we're going to do first is mark out with a Sharpie an area where we don't want the silicone to go. And we'll set that aside. Nitrile gloves on. Next, I've got my mixing bowl filled with water. I'm going to use a lot of Dawn dish soap to make this water really nice and soapy. Give it a good squirt. We want the water to be nice and soapy so the silicone doesn't stick to our hands. Next, for our silicone, we want to cut the top off and put it inside of our caulk gun. First step though, before we put it in the gun, even though we cut the tip off, we still need to break the seal that's inside the caulk gun here. On your caulk gun, you might have a little stick that's attached. Use this to pierce through, and I can feel it go through. We're good to go. Load up our gun. Whoa. Give it a couple pumps. We're set to go. All right, so now we're gonna pump and squeeze the silicone into our soapy water. What the soap does is keeps the silicone from sticking too much to your gloves. If it's sticking to your gloves, add a little bit more soap. All right, now once we have it into a nice little goo ball, I'm going to start placing it on my pumpkin, making sure to leave the area that I drew on with Sharpie. And I want my silicone to be really thick, so I'm going to keep going. Keeping your hands soapy will help the silicone not stick to your hands. Make sure you're pressing it onto the pumpkin really well with no air bubbles. Okay, so I've got my silicone working its way up, and at this point I'm going to find me a nice plastic surface to set my pumpkin down on. So I keep adding the silicone. And our last little bit. Make sure I can't see the color of my pumpkin through the silicone. That way I know it's thick enough. Now we let our silicone goo cure.
Hey.
Okay, I've let my silicone rubber cure for 24 hours. This is really important. You want to make sure your silicone is nice and cured. When I say cured, that also means dry. So our next steps, we will take our pumpkin out of the silicone mold, and I'll show you how to mix some plaster to pour inside. Now I'm going to peel my silicone mold off of my piece of plastic, and you can see inside here we've got our pumpkin. I'm just going to slowly pull it out of the silicone mold. I'm also going to set my silicone mold inside this bowl so it'll hold it right in place for me when I cast my plaster inside. Okay, to mix our plaster, I have a mixing bucket here that I filled up with 8 ounces of water. So next I'm going to add in my plaster. I have a cup here that holds 18 ounces of plaster. Pour your 18 ounces into your 8 ounces of water. Next, we're going to give it a stir. What you want to look for is all the powder is evenly mixed in, no lumps. So our consistency is kind of like melted ice cream. All right, next, we're going to pour it right into our silicone mold, all the way to the top. Last step, give your bowl a little tap. What this does is it allows all the bubbles inside the plaster to come to the surface. Okay, now that I've poured my plaster into my silicone mold, I'm going to wait for about 2 hours till it's perfectly cure or dry, and it'll be hard to the touch, and we can take it out. Okay, so now we've let our plaster dry for about 2 hours. It's dry to the touch and nice and hard. So next, I will peel it out of the silicone. Ta-da! Okay, so here is our plaster pumpkin fresh out of our silicone mold. It's pretty cute. If I want to, I can use my sandpaper to smooth any edges. Maybe you have a little bubble. Make it just perfect. When I want to decorate my pumpkin, I can use markers or crayons, even nail polish to paint right on top of the surface of this plaster pumpkin. Okay, you guys, we did it. We finished the whole goo workshop from oobleck to silicone rubber. I hope you had a great time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.